all over the place.
Yeah. Can you touch on, communication with the artists that send you their masters? How incommunicado are you? What do revisions look like?
Oh yeah. I'm there for whatever the client needs. I love communicating. I mean, it's just for all aspects of music making that is so important. In fact, that's for me. I mean, for sure, when I'm producing, that's the number one most important thing, and that's translated to mastering as well. It's just whether it's verbal or not, like establishing communication is very important. And so sometimes it's just like a quick like phone call or email, and you just like lay out your needs. And sometimes people's like shortness of their communication is just as effective. Like, okay, you're leaving it up to me. Like that tells me like you're leaving it up to me. You trust me. It's a need to know basis type of thing. I'm gonna do my thing, and you'll tell me if I've hit the mark or missed it, right? And other people are really like, they send detailed notes, and we have a lot of back and forth, and that's totally valuable as well. That informs me. Lets me know where they're at in their music making process, what their headspace is, their level of sort of attention in this process. Some people want nothing to do with the mastering process. They are done. Like when I sent stuff off for mastering, I was done. And I was like, I trust you. I know you. Don't fuck it up. I'll let you know if you fuck it up, but otherwise I might not even listen to it after. You know what I mean? Like I might not even write you back because I trust you, right? So it's just kind of how much or how little communication we're actually doing is a form of communication in itself.
Interesting.
And it really lays the groundwork for how much I need to reciprocate, right? Like if someone has sent me a whole bunch of notes and detailed references and thoughts, of course, I'm going to respond in a similar way. And then there, a lot of times those kinds of projects have more revisions, and they're not even necessarily revisions on my end. They're sometimes like just like new mixes, and I'm fine with that. Of course, it's not like my favorite thing to get like a bunch of versions of the mix after I've already done it, but I ultimately just want people and clients to be happy, and I want to be happy as well. So if we can make an end product better somehow by working together, I'm open to that for the most part, within reasonable boundaries. But
yeah, for sure. When we're doing like, the stuff that we do in the arts and obviously music is our passion. Like we want it to be good, just like the artist wants it to be good. And that just leads to better work, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you were telling me before we started the interview that you still also do some production. You don't just do mastering. You want to touch on why that is, maybe?
Yeah, I think I just get bored doing the same thing over and over again. And I feel like the more that I sort of jump around and wear different hats, the more that I learn and the better I get at each of those things. So if I'm a better mix engineer, I'm going to be a better mastering engineer. If I'm a better mastering engineer, I'm going to be a better producer. And it just sort of all like funnels into the same like building of my skills as a professional. And so it also helps me to just like, if I'm doing different things, I don't get burnt out on any one thing. Like if I'm doing too much, or if I'm doing, a bunch of back-to-back productions, it's really taxing in a very specific way. It might be long hours, or it might be emotional energy or mental energy, focus and sort of tapping one element of my creativity over and over again. That can get kind of hard on me. So, if I'm doing a bunch of producing and then I just need to sort of recede inside my spaceship and just do a bunch of mastering, recover that energy from producing, and then I'm like all re-inspired to like, oh, I'm gonna go out there and engineer because I've been doing these like little moves on other people's work, and now I want to go out there and I want to do my own, so that might inspire me to do some more engineering and some more mixing. And it just all kind of, for whatever reason, it helps me to be able to jump around and wear these different hats all under the umbrella of music production.
Yeah.
And it fuels my creativity, and it helps me not get burnt out. It helps me work long hours if I can mix it up too. I don't get bored and I don't get tired if I'm switching it up on the regular.
Yeah. This is something that I realized recently was, if I'm only doing one aspect of the production process for too long, it can start to turn into a job.
Yeah.
As opposed to your passion. And I was like, I guess during the pandemic, I was more niching into mixing than anything else, just because I wasn't really having anybody over, and
Of course,
I had some mixing work coming in, which was great. And then a buddy of mine came along, was like, hey, you want to remix this track for me? And it got me so like pumped up just to like do something that wasn't and I think I still like, maybe I love like mixing more, but just to have that other aspect in, like the producing, just like lit a fire under me that like
absolutely,
just doing the same thing over and over and over wasn't necessarily doing anymore.
Yeah. And it just helps you to push your own boundaries too. Like if you're doing the same thing day in and day out, there's going to be repetition. Like when I was engineering, for Monarch, so taking house gigs mostly, same room, same gear, same hours, usually different people, and that kept me on my toes for sure. But there's you start repeating yourself, and that alone can get kind of tiresome.
Right. Yeah. That was like even the beginning of my podcast, I was asking a lot of the same questions, and I got bored of my own questions. And that's how the podcast became much more conversational and chill. And I just realized, less agenda, more, let's see what happens.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense.
Yeah. Anyways, so Elisa, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom. This has been an awesome episode, and I've learned a ton. So I asked this question to everybody on the show, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this. When you were getting kind of at the beginning of your journey, was there something that you either did or maybe didn't do that, Elisa of today would say, hey, do that, or, stop doing that you'd maybe want to impart on the listener who's maybe more at the beginning of their journey than you are?
Yeah. Oh, man, that's a really good question. I mean, I think the thing that helped me I feel like I've been able to get anywhere that I want to be. And I feel like the number one thing that sort of helped me with that is just being open to everything. So saying yes, like I set out on my studio journey. So cheesy. I set out to be a producer, and I do produce, but I also do all these other things. I spent so much time as a recording engineer. I spent so much time just focused on mixing and all these other things. And that's just kind of where that was the opportunities that presented themselves. That was just me following what I was interested in that moment. And that led me to places I could never have planned, situations I could never have planned for, and massive growth and learning experiences. So I think just by staying open and saying yes to things that are resonating with you in that moment is so, so important. It's important to have a bearing, of course, as well. But my bearing was just like, I want to make music, and that can look 1,000 different ways. So as long as I was happy and making music, then I felt like I was headed in the right direction. And that has taken me so many different places, and I absolutely treasure that. So just staying open and staying true to, like, when I got sick of engineering, I just stopped engineering. Some people maybe would consider that bad advice, but if I wasn't like the most stoked person in the room, I feel like I didn't deserve to be there, and I wasn't doing any service to the music to be there, right? So I just followed what got me the most stoked in that moment. Just sort of, staying true to yourself and staying open and checking in with yourself too, making sure that you're happy doing what you're doing, and if you're not, making the change and putting in the time to grow and learn. And
yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's like, when different opportunities presented themselves to you, you decided whether to hop on board or not hop on board based on what your gut was telling you. And you never know when those opportunities are going to come along, so you gotta listen to what your inner you is telling you, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, and that took me some really, really cool places. I mean, the only thing I might have, like, maybe I should have made a little more time for friends and family in certain stages of my life. That can go by really, really quickly when you're a workaholic, and sometimes people like really prop themselves up on their workaholism, and that can get a little bit dangerous. I've definitely felt myself slipping into that pattern where I was just so. I mean, it's because I loved it. It's because I love it. It's so focused, hyper focused, and driven, and just like wanting to work all the time. Maybe if I was going to say like, here's a good thing and here's a bad thing, maybe just be aware of when you're sort of working too much. Just don't work yourself too much.
Yeah, I feel like there's a season for each of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a season like when you're like new and you're just getting started and you're learning everything and you just like I think you said at the beginning it became an obsession, right? Like,
oh yeah.
It's an obsessive industry. Like people do this because they can't not do it, right? Like you.
Oh yeah.
Like just fiddling with an equalizer is like an obsession for people like us. So I think there's a season to just really do that and like get your 10,000 hours in and really just like hustle all the time. And then there's a season for like, this can't be all of me. You know what I mean? There's more to me than just my work. And that's something that I'm like, struggling with, I guess, now in this pandemic is like, they're right now I'm in lockdown. So it's like, how do you find meaning in, yourself beyond just the work you do? Like if you don't even have time to do the work, whatever it is, whatever reason you can or cannot work, like how do you find, I mean, me coming from like this Jewish, like American background where we're just like workaholics, like, success, production, do things, like how do you find like, that inner meaning that's beyond just the work you do?
Totally.
So I guess I'll leave that as an open-ended question because I'm still working on it. But
yeah, I think a lot of people are. I've actually had that. I love that conversation. This is a whole other conversation, but I've had that with a few of like, especially my musician, like performing friends. It's like their work and what they did every single day was almost fused with their identity, like this performer. And then suddenly that was just gone. And it's just kind of like, wait, what am I now? I think that's been one of the hardest things about this pandemic is just people having to be like, what am I? I mean, I feel that for sure. Because it was, I made a change regardless of the pandemic, sort of a pivot. That's the word I'm looking for. So I sort of had a heads up, but I also just like, I was making music one day in a studio with a bunch of people, and then I was only mastering pretty much the next day. Like not pretty much like that, but like the next month, I had to really move over very quickly, and I had to ask myself, like, is this what I want? Is this what I do now? Like, have I stopped making records? The answer to that became no, but it, even just that much of a change was challenging, and I was forced to ask questions, and I was forced to face realities, and I was forced to sort of figure out my priorities much quicker than I think I normally would, outside of a global pandemic. So, you know.
Well, hopefully this season will come to a close sooner than later, and we can figure out things with a little less stress.
Totally.
Here's hoping. Elisa, this has been a pleasure to meet you and to get to schmooze with you. How can the audience find you on the internet?
Oh, that's a great question. I never update my website. Instagram, it's cat pictures. Exactly how
I'll put a link.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. I was like, do I actually have to spell that now? Okay.
No, you don't have to. It'll be linked in the show notes.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah. Cat pictures is probably the way. You can shoot me an email, elisa@cpsmastering.com. Find me through the CPS Mastering website. And someday I'll put my website that I think is Elisa. I don't even know my own URL. I think it's Elisa Kady. Kady.
It's in our email chain. Okay, but I'm not going to post it.
Yeah, okay, because it's not active. Yeah, no, don't worry about it. It's on my to-do list.
I'll put all the good links up on the show notes. People can check it out and can find you there.
Wicked.
Stay safe out there and have a great one.
Thank you so much, Ben. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, same here. Take care.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Secret Sonics. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Elisa as much as I did. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes, I'd super appreciate it if you would go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It really helps the show. And if you could share this episode or your favorite episode with a friend or two, that would also really help the show move forward. In addition to that, you can find us on social media. Just search for Secret Sonics. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And you can email me at secretsonics@gmail.com if you have any comments, feedback, guests you might want to recommend, anything like that. So that's about it for now. Until next time, I hope you guys have a great week. Stay safe out there and dig in.